School District Finance and Facilities Committee, School District Waukesha meeting. Everybody's microphone's on. Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey.
You're welcome.
Verification of meeting was properly posted. Mr. Clark?
Yes, it was.
Okay, opportunity for citizens to speak. I don't see any citizens, so we'll move right past that. Action items, approval of monthly vouchers.
I apologize, I didn't email it till today. I'm
Didn't email it till today. Anybody had any questions on vouchers?
happy to answer them after the fact if
Okay.
you
Yeah,
want
if you have any questions, if you look at it tonight, just email us.
Well, it requires an action
Apologize.
though. Yeah.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion Mr. Caffrey, second Pat Madden. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, motion passes 4-0. Information items, monthly budget update.
Okay. On the revenue side, we're right along in line where we were at last year at this time. Some of our main outstanding revenue sources are our open enrollment tuition. We should know the settlement on that next week. It should come in Monday. The final tax collections, which will come in the main balance will come in August. The final equalization aid payments, we'll get most of it on Monday and the final in July. State tuition payment came today. Computer aid will come in beginning of July. Medicaid cost settlement came in today, and then the final grant payments will trickle in throughout the summer as we get them. But overall, we're right in line with where we were last year on a percentage of revenue collection. Looking at the expenditures, on the purchase services, it looks like we're only at 58% in May, but we still have some large outstanding items here, and that would be our payment to the state for the voucher students, our open enrollment tuition out. Those will both hit here in June. And then we have some final bus bills that need to be settled yet that are pretty large. So that percentage will get caught up pretty quickly in June. Non-capital objects, nothing out of line there. For capital objects, it really, again, it looks underspent compared to last year, but we do have some rather large outstanding technology purchase orders that are coming through yet. And when we get those bills in and paid, it'll catch right back up to where it should be. Overall, we're looking pretty good. 69% of our expenditures have been spent, and anticipate that we'll be right up there with most of the rest of them. Fund 27, really nothing out of line at all to report there. Our main expenditures here are paying the private tuition bills for special education to the private schools that we send some of our students to. Otherwise, it's pretty much in line with the rest of it. Any questions on the budget? I also would like to just ask that if you have other ways you would like this presented or additional information, just send me an email, because I want to make sure that this is giving you the information that you're looking for. So any format changes or anything, just let me know, we can discuss it. And
It's good for me, but on the voucher ones, excuse me, Joe, I'll get back to you just a second. On the voucher ones, is there a way we can just have that tabbed or something like that so that we can categorize that so it's just not one big long voucher sheet? And the other thing, I'm not a big fan of Google. Can it just be attached to the emails from now on?
I have been sending out the voucher in email, but we just had a crazy last week of school, and I missed that. So that I totally take accountability for not sending that out by email, but normally I have been sending it out. Tabbing, I can certainly make it happen any way you want to see it. So what would you like it broken apart by?
I don't know, I'd have to think it through, but maybe Joe would have some ideas, but certainly we still categorize it by, you know. Do we have a sorting function where we can categorize it by pay, who we pay to?
We take some cracks at it. I'm
Don't
not
have
sure what
that.
options we have.
I believe, if I'm thinking of, I'm looking at trying to look at the report screen right now, and I do believe that we can pull it up in some variances, but we'd have to look at that. And and look at the sorting
Well,
options.
don't wanna go to a lot of extra work, but I just thought if we could.
Oh, no, I think that there's there's a tab that allows for sorting options that I recall on that particular report. So I think the functionality's there, we just have to decide how we want it sorted by. I believe right now we just sort it by check number, but we can I know there's a sort tab in there that would allow us to sort by any of the fields on there. So you can think about that and let me know before next month, and I can maybe shoot some out ahead so that you could look at the different, sort it a couple ways and send it and let you decide as a group which one you like best.
I'll get to you in just a second, Joe. I know I should let you talk first, but, well, the reason the voucher the voucher report, I've been two F&F meetings back, but, was where we brought up this expenditure for the marketing of eAchieve. And whether that was money well spent, given, how much we were spending. Questions like that, I don't know if we ever get resolution to those questions, but those are what come out of the voucher report. Where we can ask those questions. Mr. Como, sorry about the delay.
Yeah, actually, there, Todd, I think a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, you had some suggestions for, I think, cost accounting approaches, like by project.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to sit down with there and go through, some of that would be a lot of work, some maybe not so much, but, I've always kind of struggled with the format, but not being in that department, I haven't changed it, but
Yeah.
I think there are some ways that, might make sense.
I know you bounced around some ideas with this committee, or maybe it was just me, I don't remember, but I thought some of the things that we had talked about a few years ago seemed really
Right.
would help
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah, I can run through that with Darren and.
Because this is, at least for me, I can do a spot check on this, but, boy, I'm really not following a program well, or I'm not really following, an effort that we're putting forth, whether you want to call that a project or at the program level. So that kind of organization would I think, help me more, because we'll approve something and we'll say, hey, well, how are we doing? And it'd be nice to be able to kind of summarize and go back into it. And actually, what would be really nice would be, can we go in and do our own searches? Can we go into the actual database and just slice and dice things up ourselves too? That might be something that, would be nice. But, and some of these things might take some time. But, we're starting to get used to being able to do our own searches electronically. And I just don't know how, what our system's set up for and whether that's feasible or not. But I think it still would need some other organization too.
In the short term, in addition to providing it in a PDF, would it be of any use to dump it to Excel and allow you to search through it or sort through it or create pivot tables or anything you want to look at the data in Excel?
Probably.
I think the only usefulness on that would be if we added, I can't remember if the account number's on the voucher report or not. I don't remember. I'd have to look at that. I don't know how useful it would be if it didn't have the account number on it though, but.
Yeah.
Phone number's on it.
Oh, it is, okay.
I mean, that would still be helpful, but again, I think the better route to go, or at least a more meaningful route, would be here's a program or here's a project, and here are the costs associated with that. Here's the revenues we've received. Here's the expenses that have been applied to that. That would be the ultimate for me.
But I would say the idea of dumping it to Excel is probably a good idea. I mean, then I could do some of my own sorting.
Sure.
Someone's gonna have to train me on how to do pivot tables. I think it's a relatively short course. Okay, so.
YouTube video out there, but it's pretty easy.
It's, yeah.
Okay.
But let us, I have it on our to-do list, let us come back with some options. I don't think it's anything we need to cure in 1 month, but I think it's a pretty intimidating report now if you get it as a PDF and you can't really maneuver in it besides page it down.
It's really just a spot check,
Yeah.
really, is what it is.
No.
Yeah, you can use it for that, but beyond that, then you gotta, to ask more probing questions on a particular program or project that we've approved, it's almost impossible. I mean, we have to, kind of say, oh, that expense is associated with this. Okay, now I can ask a generic question to Sherry, and then that might lead to something else, so.
Right. Yeah, let's take a look at that. And on the e-Achieve, since you brought it up, I'm planning on bringing them back in August just to give an update on e-Achieve in total. We can touch on some of the budget stuff as well, but, and then I also talked to them that I really think, I mean, it's part of our instructional program, but it's also different in a lot of ways, that report every summer is probably an annual event rather than, I don't know how long, I know it hasn't happened in a year and a half, but just to come back to finance, and just give you an update on their enrollment numbers and how we budget and those types of
Oh,
things.
we need a deep dive into their economics. I mean, they were break even at 600 at one time. I'm not sure that's true anymore. So,
That was under the old contract,
yeah,
before
but,
we went on our own.
yeah, so, but we should do a deep dive into that, because I think that's one of those programs where you can easily spend more money than you're taking in, and nobody will let you know unless you ask.
Okay.
And that's been a problem in the past, and it will be a problem in the future if we don't keep asking about it.
Program cost accounting would help for that.
Well, it could, but, you know, we get our money late, so we actually finance that thing probably throughout the year. It's not the easiest thing to run as far as financially, so we have to make sure that we're doing well enough to justify the program.
Well,
Just adding more programs and more grade levels isn't justifying the program.
we'll give a report in August, and we'll touch on, part of that, obviously, if it's coming to this committee. If it was a curriculum-only report, it wouldn't be here, so we'll bring some financial information as well, because I think it's a fair question.
Yeah. I think a program like eAchieve loves to be in curriculum and instruction, or teaching and learning committee, because they don't have to answer the questions about the finances, but we need to ask the questions about the finances, and it needs to be watched very closely.
I think that's fair. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's one could easily run away on us. So the voucher report, just going back to that voucher report, that's the monthly vouchers, so it really that report can be generated like the first day after the end of the month, in theory?
It certainly could.
Okay,
So getting it out sooner than you get the rest of the information would be helpful.
that would be helpful, just, because then that gives us more time to dig through it, and, I can dig through it when I'm traveling and stuff like that.
Yep, ability to sort would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah. we'll look
just in
into that.
Excel, give it a Excel trial would be nice.
would be fine.
Yeah, I'll come in
I
for some
can
pivot.
provide it in both the PDF and in Excel. It's really just a button to dump it to Excel, so.
I'll come in for some pivot table training.
Sure.
And if you give me different ways you'd like to see it, I could probably put the pivot tables out there that you'd be able to look at pretty easily. I would just need to know what would be a useful way. You want to think about it and give us some ideas, some feedback, and we can see what we can come up with.
A committee consensus on that would be nice, too. How do I?
You mean like pivot tables from every person? There you go.
Yes, let me
There could be a lot of pivot
Create
let me
the scope here.
clarify, that was not what I was offering.
tables. There are a list of about 20.
But give us I think the search feature is what you're after.
Right,
Let
well, we can make our own pivot tables if we're taught how to make pivot tables, that's not a big deal, and it sounds like that's the easiest to do, so. Okay, anything else on the budget? Get back to my agenda sheet so I can find out where I'm at here. Okay, year in planning?
Yeah, I just wanted to update you on, we're in the last month of our fiscal year and halfway through it. We did this last year too, I don't know where we're gonna end up the year. Every conversation's up and down at this point, so, but if we do find ourselves, well, first of all, I think Fund 10 will have a surplus, and the reason I can assure you of that is we had the OPEB settlement this fiscal year, a very unique transaction, nothing we will factor into future projections or anything like that. But then to kind of map out some things, if there are other funds unspent, what options we would have as a committee, and ultimately the board to move forward. So I had Sherry put together a cash flow of the OPEB, the settlement. If you remember, we budgeted to make an extra principal and interest payment, so we had another transfer in there, so we had a lot of moving parts. We had it in place to make one extra principal and interest payment as the board approved the budget in October, and then in December, the settlement came in. So the way it falls out is, we end up with about $3.7 million of net proceeds. Now, we have previous expenditures tied to those proceeds. This isn't free and clear. We were making principal and interest payments over the last several years, but just taking this year as a snapshot, this is what the net impact is in looking at the OPEB situation. Part of that's in Fund 38, part of it's in Fund 10, but we tried to simplify it in this cash flow statement, because even Sherry and I, you think you're gonna remember all these big transactions, but the details grow fuzzy very quickly. So, what we do with that $3.7 million, I think something we should have a discussion about. We still have OPEB obligations. I think there's, from what I gather from conversations, some maybe some unfinished work with the retirement benefit structure that we have now. Those are things that I hear about, but I really think we need to have some consideration. And should these funds be designated, and I'm not saying we have to form a trust or anything like that, we can leave it in Fund 10, fund balance if we want, or trust can be done well to maybe use those funds to address future obligations, because we still have them. They're shrinking, but they're still there. So again, that's a conversation we can have in August, we can have it in December, whenever we're ready to tackle that issue. From now on until October, we're pretty busy with just the budget itself, so to me, it's not an urgency that we have that conversation. If there's funds outside of the OPEB, so taking that settlement off the table, we have a few options available to us. Fund 46 is something that, and actually included the resolution in your packet on the back of the last page. The board established Fund 46 in May of 2016. One of the unique rules with Fund 46 is you cannot spend the money for 5 years from the time the first deposit was made. And that's really why we created it, was to get that 5-year clock running. I think we put $1,000 in there now, so that's earning 0.25% interest or whatever we're up to right now. So this is something we could look to do in July. Actually, you can transfer into Fund 46 from Fund 10 at any time, and that's the difference between, if you remember, we have Fund 41. You levy a specific amount in there when the budget's approved, but that's all you can do in terms of funding it. Fund 46 gives you the option to transfer money at any time, with the understanding that if we were to transfer money because we have some financial maintenance obligations we know are looming out there, that we couldn't expend those monies until May of 2021, which sounds like a long ways away, but time also goes by very fast. I would not make a recommendation to transfer significant funds into that at this point, but if we want to slowly build up a pool of money, it's something to consider. Again, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer with that. The number 2 I had on here is designating some additional funds for our health insurance, our self-funded health insurance. We have reserved fund balance at this point. Last July, the board added $700,000, so we're up to $5.7 million of designated funds, which is just over 3 months of monthly claims. Over time, I'd love to get to 6, but I don't think there's a race to get there. If it takes us 5 years or whatever, that's all fine. So again, you'd have the option to do that. You've historically, from what I can see, have done that in August, so again, We have some time to ponder the next move related to that. Every year, we always do a review of anything that we can pay off in advance, whether it's Fund 38 debt or paying off a lease or things like that to save the interest and give us budget flexibility moving forward. We have no, besides copiers, we have no Apple leases right now. If you remember, we transitioned to buying them outright. So there's really not big obligations sitting out there that are costing us interest, but you know, we're big operations, there's always something, but it's very minute at this point. We could use anything we add to fund balance at the end of this year. We could designate some of that to be budgeted, to be expended next budget year using fund balance, because it all rolls into fund balance on June 30th. It could be part of that larger budget discussion and planning. Again, that's, I think, a viable option as well. And then the last one, number 5, is simply let it roll into fund balance, like we have with other fund balance dollars, and then address needs or unique situations as they arise. So again, we have no plan. I'm not here to say I purposely didn't put dollars next to these ideas, but just to plant the seed for a conversation we might be having over the next couple months.
Well, one of the things I noticed when I was at South High School, and I guess I didn't check out a lot of the other schools, but parking lots are in pretty bad shape.
Mhm.
I mean, so, and those aren't cheap.
No, not when you're dealing with the size of asphalt parking lots that we have at some of our schools.
And they make the worst impression. You know, that's the first thing you see when you hit the parking lot.
Mhm.
It's just, it makes it doesn't make a good first impression, so that's something we need to do an assessment on and maybe even look to either fix. I guess this year's almost over. It'll be over in a short period of time, right?
But, you know, those are again, I think that's a good example of the
Right.
type of project you could knock off.
This year goes though through till September, right? Is it? What's our budget year?
July 1 through June
July 1.
30th. So if the
Yeah.
work was, at this point, by the time you'd contracted, it would be July, and the work, best
Yeah.
case scenario, would
Right.
happen in August.
Right, and it should happen in August because that's.
I doubt the superintendent would want me putting them in September. I could ask Todd, but.
Yeah, there's one particular that
After
I
Labor
have to
Day.
get my car realigned every time I go through there. That would be okay. We will make that one work, or whatever.
I mean,
But no, I think I would agree, there's some work, and I also agree with your first impression concern. South certainly needs some work. I think West needs some work. North, we did some work out there last summer. But those are the types of projects we could try to address.
I mean, either it's patching and sealing or it's complete redo.
And I think
There's some redos.
Yeah.
we have a fair amount of both.
Yeah, and it's not cheap, so it's not like we,
Mm-mm.
No.
kind of like we're letting that go and shouldn't let that go.
Right.
It just gets more expensive.
Yeah. And again, that would fall under option 4, where you budget for it in 17, 18. We would approve a deficit budget, you're using fund balance. So accounting-wise, it's very easily done. I would like to run it through Fund 41 for the aid benefit of those expenditures, so it can all be, now whether I can get that work done this summer,
Well,
by the time you bid it out and all that, that would be
from what I see, you got work to do this summer. I mean, you can't let it go another year, some of these spots. I mean, there's huge potholes out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
if it's patching, it's one thing. Construction's booming right now. Road construction's booming as well. To do an RFP, I'm not saying we can't do it, I'm just giving you fair warning that to do it well might be a tight timeline. Or you pay a premium for the project.
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we'll have to do it in the fall.
well, I mean, all we need is a budget transfer if we decide to do it this summer yet. At least the patching. I don't know how much it's gonna cost to do all the patching, but it won't be cheap there either.
Yeah.
With the holes I've seen.
That's why I'm hesitant to get too specific, because I don't know what it's 6 digits. Multiple 6 digits would be my guess, to look at all of the needs. You know, what's the soils like underneath the asphalt, and sometimes there's surprises, and you'd have 2 weeks of rain, so. But that's certainly an area I think I've shared, Dr. Gray's mentioned a few areas to me as well, that Glenn and I could try to address. We could bring it back as be part of the 17-18 budget, but we could bring it back to you and say, this is what we're doing next month, and
Okay.
yeah, that's, one leads to the other, you know, the water sitting there. So,
Okay,
so, we don't foresee any surprises, but they call them surprises for a reason, so.
well, what I will say about the OPEB settlement, that did come out of our regular cash flow. So it's not like it's, you know, we took from the district to cover that situation. And now all we're doing is putting it back in. And it should go back into a general fund, you know, for maintenance or for whatever.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be seen as some sort of designated dollars that are for some special project. It should be part of our normal, you know, looking back at the efficiency project, you know, we went to the taxpayers or had the taxpayers help us out on that. Certainly the taxpayers should see us putting money into maintenance when we have something like that available, you know, rather than someday having to ask for more money for maintenance from our taxpayers.
Yeah, it's you know, and just so everyone's clear, hopefully we were made whole on the whole settlement issue. Now it's more of how the cash flow ended up in this last fiscal year and how we want to address that. So I do think we should take some time in a later month, or maybe it's part of the budget process, and just talk about this this payback of the, you know, the dollars that the district put into this, so.
Want to move to the budget development update?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got some really quick items here, I think. So, 17, 18, Sherry and I have been working on, or mainly Sherry, have been working on, you know, the construction of what we believe to be the 17, 18 budget. We are very close to completing that. We are scheduled, and I put the budget building calendar on the back of your executive summary. We're scheduled to present this committee a preliminary budget next month, and that will occur. There is a wild card out there. There is no state budget yet, so we've made some assumptions. But we think we're in a decent place, barring some major swing from where the governor's proposal came out at. Really, it's that $200 on the per pupil multiplier. That's the only topic that's really out there, that, and but it's being overshadowed by roads. So, so as long as we come in somewhere close to that, if that goes to 50 or 0, math is different. Maybe we took care of that OPEB money then too, I don't know. But we think we're in a good place in terms of the development of the 17-18 budget. One thing that we will be asking the committee and the board to do next month is establishing the date for our budget hearing. We have gone in September, the last few months, or few years. There's no magic to that. I don't know if there's a better date than other dates, but that's something that we would like to nail down next month from the committee, is when we want to go. On the calendar that was developed, that I put together last fall, we have it as the 13th, and I was just following roughly what we had done the year before. So, so something to think about. We won't have our pupil count by then, but we won't have our aid, we won't have the voucher. I mean, if we wait for all that information, we'll be having the budget hearing on October 22nd. So I don't know if that's a good date either. So, so just some things to think about. But the reason I threw it on the agenda is to let you know we think we're in a decent place. HR's going to be looking at some compensation packages on Wednesday. Those are incorporated into where we think the budget is as well. And then we'll have it all put together for you in July, or as near as possible, the final.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Insurance broker services, RFQ timeline.
Yeah, again, this is something, we're actually I had one interview today. We have 3 finalists. We'll be interviewing 2 other ones tomorrow. I'll be updating, I'm hoping to be able to update the board Wednesday night with just a memo saying this is where we've come down on our decision, and we'll roll forward, but just to keep you informed. The RFP process did start in April. We sent it out to 9 firms. We got 5 proposals back, so I think we got a very good response. And now what we've done, and we had a slight change of process in case there's ever a question. You can send them to me, but if you are ever asked, when we got the proposals, there's a lot of good firms out there, and their fees are all within a very tight band of each other. They know where the market's at. And you had to make some decisions on how to narrow it from them coming in and, who has the glossiest 3-ring binder and all that. So once we narrowed it to the 3 finalists, we had them actually go out into the marketplace, and our meeting today and our meetings tomorrow, I had them actually go out and secure lines of actual coverage. How competitive in the actual marketplace can you be? Because you can look great selling your services, but I need to know you're effective in the marketplace. So that's what we're doing now, is reviewing the policies they're bringing back, looking at the grades of the insurance companies they're bringing in. They're on an A through F economic scale, kind of a Moody's type of scale. So we're almost complete with that. So I just wanted to update you that hopefully on Wednesday we'll be able to share with the board what we're going to do effective July 1st.
So who is our incumbent right now?
Hayes. Been with us 3 years.
Before that it was,
Was it Gallagher maybe
Yeah,
before
it was
that?
Gallagher before that.
Yeah. I think R&R's had a chance. I mean, Waukesha.
Hayes answer?
Hmm?
Did Hayes answer?
Hayes is one of our finalists.
On the 5, okay.
No, they've provided solid service to us. So I just wanted to update the committee because that, and let you know we are bidding out professional services here and there. We're not just rolling contracts forward.
discussion item, facility master plan?
Just a quick update. The board had their second workshop a few weeks ago, came up with some guiding principles to move forward. Dr. Gray and I are meeting with architectural services to secure that, hopefully, and to begin that process. I've also, I should be getting what I think is a near final draft for the phone survey that we've been working on. And I'll probably send that out. If I get it this week, I'll probably send it out in the Friday update. So take a look at that survey, and if you have questions on the questions, please let me know. The timing of the survey, at this point, I actually talked with Springstead last week, and with a phone survey, I don't know if it's critical that school be in session, so we might try to get it in at the end of June. Obviously, we'll stay away from the week of 4th of July. People go on vacation. So we're working on that. But if you can take a look at that survey and provide any feedback that you have, it'll be in the Friday update, hopefully. If not, I'll put a note in there that it'll be in the next week's Friday update. So the administration has also scheduled a second tour. So if any board members, and I think you've all been reached out to, for Monday, June 19th, we'll be going to Lake Mills Elementary and one of the middle schools in Economowoc. Nature Hill, yeah. Elementary in Lake Mills, not Lake Mills Elementary School. Both, unlike our last tour, which was all renovated space, these would both be newer construction within the last, 4 years or so. And it would provide elementary and middle school focus. But I have some of our principals going along this time as well. We did last time, and I thought they saw a lot of neat things, and I think the board and the principals had some good dialogue. I even have Becky from North's going, even though we're not going to a high school, a lot of the concepts transcend the grades. So if you are interested, or if you've already told Sue, I have your name already more than likely, but I think there's some undecideds because of business travel schedules and everything. But if you decide to go, up to that morning is fine. So that's all I have on that, unless there's questions.
Any questions? Okay, very well. I guess that pretty much concludes our meeting today. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.